Hello guys, I wanted to talk with you today about the slaying of the murder of Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who was shot in the head by the IDF, that's the Israeli Defense Force, on Wednesday, May 11th, while she was in the West Bank city of Jenin. And she was fully dressed in press attire. She was wearing a media press helmet and a press jacket. So she was clearly identified as part of the press, as well as it's been proven that she was not she was not in the presence of any Palestinian fighters or anything like that. Also, Akleh, she was a Palestinian and American citizen, so she had dual citizenship between Palestine and America. And so this is so the IDF shot her in the head and even shot one other journalist in the back, and he remains injured but not dead. And so they even attacked the mourners, attempting to carry her coffin 2 days later in occupied East Jerusalem. I don't know or believe that gunfire was given or anybody got killed in that situation, but there was a series, or hurt even, but there was a series of but the motorcade and the mourners were carrying Palestinian flags, and the Israeli Defense Force went in and kind of raided and stole all the flags and pretty much desecrated the entire mourning event by obstructing and then removing all the Palestinian flags. So what we've got going on in Israel is pretty horrific. I mean, it's already basically an apartheid state and essentially genocide. It's really remarkable and ironic that that Israel set up as a response by the American and British governments as a refuge for Israelis after the horrors of the Holocaust of World War II. At least that's the reasoning we're given, but as the official stance by the United States and British governments. How the history of Israel has led us to this point, where the Israelis are now the Jews who were persecuted in Nazi Germany and subjected to apartheid states and forced to live in ghettos and having their homes and businesses bombed, destroyed, removed, treated like social pariah in their own country. How they went on to be part of the same culture and society of Israel, where the Israelis are now treating the Palestinians just as bad. They're basically committing genocide against the Palestinians by forcing them into an apartheid state where they can't leave, they can't protest, and they'll get shot. If you're a journalist, now your life is at threat. You can't leave. You're forced into these small communities, that are getting smaller and smaller and being eradicated and limited and put walls around. And anybody who stands up or protests or does anything against the IDF and the Israeli government is going to be killed. Not arrested, not tear gassed, shot dead. They'll shoot dead. The Israeli government and the Israeli Defense Force, they will shoot dead any protester, any journalist who gets in their way. That's what kind of regime we're facing here, and we're helping them. They're a close ally of ours, and their politics and their lobbying affects us very close. Not just what goes on in Israel, but the Israelis as well as the Saudis, of course, have dramatic, huge amounts of influence in lobbying over our politicians in the United States. And the Israeli government has done things as specific. The Israeli lobbying groups such as AIPAC and the BMFI have extended their tentacles all the way into local congressional elections, House elections between Nina Turner and Chantal Brown, as well as other small elections in the United States. So so Israel is obviously terrible, and so there's a variety of people who are calling for investigations into what happened here. Two U.S. congressmen, as well as French President Emmanuel Macron, as well as the International Criminal Court, as well as the UK Parliament. These organizations are all calling for investigation into the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh, and of course she was an Al Jazeera reporter. So Al Jazeera, as well as Palestinian groups, are calling this murder from the Israeli Defense Force, and are looking for their own independent investigations, primarily, I believe, through the International Criminal Court. But in addition to that, human rights group B'Tselem, human rights group I've never heard of, B'Tselem, and an investigative media outlet, Bellingcat, two organizations I'm not familiar with. They both confirm that Akleh was not killed by Palestinians but by IDF. So what we're also getting is a lot of contradicting stories from Israel and the IDF, claiming that it was not Israelis who killed her, but it was Palestinians, and if it was Israelis, it was because she was amongst Palestinian fighters, and it was a simple mistake. So it's not clear exactly. I mean, I'm hearing mixed reports as to what the official story is from the Israeli state and from the IDF, but what we're seeing here is clearly, it's another journalist getting killed over there, and in Israel, where it's a clear message to, and apparently Israel, or the Israeli Defense Force, had not too recently, not that long ago, bombed the Associated Press, the AP, their home, their offices in Israel got bombed by the IDF. A journalist organization, their headquarters in Israel, getting bombed. And now we're seeing one of Al Jazeera's reporters shot in the head, killed dead in full press garb, away from Palestinian soldiers, not even in a combat zone. So hopefully investigation goes into this and sheds light on it. And it's good to see that Al Jazeera is standing up for themselves, and not wishy-washy about it, and defending their journalists and defending journalism in this case. And it's unfortunate that it's not being talked about more in U.S. media. It took some digging to actually find this story. Apparently, the murder of journalists is just par for the course in the Middle East. Anyway, thank you guys.